Hello from Wiltshire on a very dark and gloomy final day of 2023. If you haven't subscribed, please do so now, and don't forget to hit the notification button so that you know when I put a video up. And thanks for all your many comments. I do try and read them all, and please keep commenting and let me know what you think. So I'm sure that Rishi Sunak is feeling pretty gloomy today, given the poll that is in the Observer today. And it shows that finally, like the scene in Midsummer Night's Dream when Tatiana finally wakes up to the fact that Cupid's arrow made her fall in love with an ass, Britain has realised that Brexit is an ass and is hurting Britain. It's hurting our economy and it's hurting our public services. It's also having a negative impact on our freedoms. As we're no longer able to travel freely as we were before. It's also having a very negative impact on our trade, which is why our economy's suffering, and it's only set to get worse. Today, the agreement with Canada ends, and it means that Britain will no longer be able to send cheese to Canada because the rollover deal that's been negotiated post-Brexit has hit significant problems because Canada are playing hardball and they want to force us to accept hormone-fed meat. So all of these things actually were predicted and were thoroughly predictable. But because of boosterism from characters like Boris Johnson, who is now a proven liar, we've got evidence to show he partied while we were not locked away, meant that some people fell for the lies. And you can't blame them for that. And I continue to try and remind people of this. It's not the case that the referendum made the decision. Our politicians make decisions. Parliament makes decisions. The campaign in 2016 was a campaign, and the vote was a process which people felt meant something, but it didn't mean anything in law. And all it did was raise the issue of Brexit and make sure that Boris Johnson became Prime Minister, and that's all he wanted. And it's so important to do that because, as you know, I like to talk to you about food because we all need food. And I get a lot of comments about, well, your farmers all voted for Brexit. Well, even if they did, and they didn't all vote for Brexit, but even if they did, it's about you, it's about your food, because the biggest disaster for Brexit is food. And that's because we are heavily reliant on Europe for food. And again, next year, at the end of January, they will begin the import checks, and that will have a further negative impact on our food, as less food will come in from Europe. And the rest of the world right now is descending into chaos with the two canals which connect us to the Pacific having significant problems. And so this means it's a very bad time for us to become reliant on food from the other side of the world. We need to free up trade with our biggest trading partner on our doorstep. And the main and the most urgent reason for that is food. And, when there is all of the problems are in front of us, if there's not enough food, everything will really, really become even more problematic. And there are already food shortages. People have just got used to them. We already have less choice and less availability, particularly of fresh food. And food is much more expensive, and it will continue to get more expensive, especially with these Brexit checks coming in. And the way the government structured Brexit, in that we immediately had barriers, non-tariff barriers, to export to Europe. But Europe actually had a free ride for the first 2 years of Brexit. They've had no checks. And that has meant that their goods have been able to undercut our goods. And so it means that we are now producing less food in Britain. So we're more reliant on imports than ever before because of Brexit. And so this is why I go on about it, because I believe that we should have, to have a safe and secure and fair country, we need to make sure that food is fair. And that was the best thing for us being in Europe, was that we had the ability to ensure that we had some of the cheapest food, particularly in the developed world. And now that is changing. And that is why, as an island nation, we know what happened in the last 2 world wars. We know what it means if there's not enough food. Our geographical position means that we are very vulnerable. Anyway, I hope that clears things up. I will put a link to the article and the poll below for people to read. And let's hope that it ensures that some of our political leaders will find some courage to give us an option to vote to get rid of Brexit. Because right now, Keir Starmer is committed to trying to make Brexit work. Well, you know, it cannot work and it won't work. The only way it will work is by getting rid of it. And Ed Davey has been very quiet on the fact that Liberal Democrats have always been a pro-European party. And let's hope that this polling, which shows that 63% of British people now recognise that Brexit is bad for Britain, that they finally realise that there is an electoral advantage to coming out with the truth.